So we live in a very ego-based culture that would prefer us to stay stuck in that injured, reactive, autopilot self. Spiritual life, however, is the exact opposite of that. An authentic spiritual life asks us to profoundly change so that we can be in service to the world. And that means the profound change that is required is the practice of slowly stripping away that false ego self, little by little, slowly stripping it away so that we can come into more connection with each other. And that's scary to us. We'd much rather have a set of dogmas that we can say we believe than a practice of slowly becoming more open and vulnerable to each other. When we look at our dream life, dreams come from what is called primary imagination. So in other words, the imagination conjures these things up before we have any control over what's happening. Secondary imagination will take something that bubbles up from our primary imagination and we'll turn it into a play or a painting, or we'll work with it. But primary imagination is just that bizarre thing that pops out in your dream that you had no planning or no expectation of. And so automatically it's coming from somewhere other than that false self. And it's deeply connected to authentic self, which is below the isolated ego self, which is why we don't like our dreams, because they shock us. They send us off balance. They startle us. And they can be very confusing. But they can also allow us to grow. So here we are in collective liminal times. And what we need more than anything else, I think, is people who are willing to show up in this liminal space and meet each other and be changed. We are stubbornly trying to fix things through some kind of technological or institutional or legal or political change. And all of those are part of the process. But none of them, I don't think, are going to work to really get to what needs to be fixed or changed if we aren't willing to fix or change our inner relationship to the core, the primary imagination, and the otherness that we experience even inside of ourself, let alone outside in the world. Because really, without being able to encounter that otherness, we can't be compassionate. And without compassion, nothing is going to change. So to fix the world, we have to stop avoiding each other and our complex inner life and start becoming unsettled and shaken awake by authentic encounters with people, our own wounds, our emotions, our feelings, our inner monsters, and all that otherness that we fear. That's where we have to start. Which means we have to leave our comfort zone. And we need deep encounters, larger and larger circles of relationship, not small silos. Which is why being a spiritually independent or fluid person can be a great asset to our times. It's scary to leave your house and go and visit a Hindu temple or a Muslim mosque, or talk to that person on the bus next to you who's wearing a different religious costume than you are comfortable wearing. It's scary to leave that comfort zone and meet these people. But when you start doing that, you can grow and learn and be changed by those encounters. So spiritually independent or fluid people can be deeply committed to contemplative practices of more than one faith tradition. My personal journey, I've started to see that as a poet, I really love the Sufi tradition, which is the Muslim mystical path, the wayfarer in search of the beloved, they will say. So I'm doing everything I can to meet Sufi people and dance zikrs with them and hear them read Rumi poetry in Persian. I draw heavily from the Christian mystics. My family tradition is Christian, Irish Catholic and Episcopalian heritage. So I started learning from Hildegard of Bingen and Julian of Norwich and trying to learn and connect to that. And then as somebody who's really deeply passionate about what's happening on the earth, I wanted to look for native earth-based religions that feed my soul. But I didn't want to, steal from the Native Americans, since I'm not a Native American. So I sought, what is the earth-based tradition in my own life? And went into Celtic spirituality all the way back to what the Druids may have done. So that allows me to live in the tension of combining multiple perspectives and ways of relating and meet people from that growth. In terms of dreams, I want to just say a little bit about them. I know I'm just scratching the surface, so if anybody wants to learn more about that, I'd be glad to let you know how to connect with some workshops I'm hoping to do later on. But what dreams do is they actually give us examples of our own ego reactivity happening in response to the sacred other. And when we can get past that ego reactivity and meet the image of the dream in and of itself that is potent with emotion, we can be deeply changed. So dreams are images that are ripe with feeling. And I'm going to give you one little quick example from my own dream life. A couple years ago, I dreamed that I was climbing a cliff. And I was going up a wooden ladder. It was like an Anasazi Pueblo ladder up this long cliff face. And I had an empty wheelbarrow strapped to my back. And I'm struggling up this ladder with the wheelbarrow on my back because I had to have the wheelbarrow because I might need it to carry all the stuff that I have to carry around with me. I think a lot of people may recognize that condition. That's my ego condition. I have to keep soldiering on carrying all this stuff. So I'm trying to get at the top of the ladder, around the rungs of the ladder, onto the top of the cliff with a wheelbarrow on my back. And there, standing on the cliff, is a man, an indigenous young man, who looks at me with a bemused face and simply says, "Can I help you?" That was the sacred encounter. That was the moment when help was being offered from the primary imagination. How did I respond to it? I said what I always say. "Oh no, I'm fine. I can handle it on my own." And I struggle down the path with my wheelbarrow. So the medicine that I keep going back to in that dream is that moment on the cliff face where there's this offer of help to take the wheelbarrow off my back. Can I help you? Yes, please help. There's so much feeling in that. Yes, please help. So that's a little bit about my journey as a wayfaring dreamer in difficult times. I see us for the rest of my life and on into the coming century having to navigate turbulent shockwave after shockwave after shockwave for us to transition to the changes we need to make. So I'm going to keep meeting people who are different from me, learning how they strip the ego conditioning away and become more authentic. And I'm going to keep dreaming and asking for help. So I invite you all to join me in that journey. Please reach out to me if you'd like to learn more about any of what I've just scratched the surface on here in this talk. So thank you for letting me share that with you.